Hello, this is HC Bailey, and welcome to a special preview and tutorial episode for my next side Let's Play project. I thought I'd make this episode by myself so that when my brother and I are ready, we can just get started with the game here. And plus, I'll put this episode in each playlist for each path in the game, because there's different paths you can take for the storyline, so I don't have to explain everything 3 times. So apparently there's 8 incarnations of disaster, the God Beasts. Oh, I was going to say, and I guess we have to stop them, but apparently not. Now, for those who don't know, this is the secret 3rd game in the Mana series, after Final Fantasy Adventure and Secret of Mana. Although, I think chronologically it happens like 1,000 years before Secret of Mana, but it's not critical. Don't worry about it. If you haven't played the other 2 games, it's not important there. Like Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma, they share the same theme, but, and some references, but that's about it. The plot isn't continuous. This game was never released in the United States for some godforsaken reason, but thanks to the miracle of fan translations, we can finally play this hidden gem. I mean, it's right up there with, like, Terranigma and Lufia 2 and, like, hidden gems on the Super Nintendo, That's what system this game is for. Man, the graphics are actually a little different from Secret of Mana. I mean, it's still similar, but for someone who's played Secret of Mana 20 times like I have, it's a little off-putting at first, because it's like, whoa, it's like so different. I mean, the graphics are great and all, it's just so different from what I would expect, I guess, Mana is fading from the world again. I mean, this is like every time Princess Peach gets kidnapped, it's just another day at the office. I don't know. But, yeah, so we're gonna have to save the world. Of course we're gonna save the world, as if that's a spoiler. Now, although this game plays a lot like Secret of Mana, I feel it plays a lot more like a pure RPG than an action RPG, because, you still move around in the field and attack enemies and stuff like you did in Secret of Mana, but your ability to be quick with the controls and dodge enemy attacks is far less emphasized. The strategy of the game is really more so based on how you develop your party, the spells you use, and things like that. That said, it does require far less grinding than Secret of Mana. There's still some, but not nearly as much. So I really like how they handle that in this game. So if you can't get enough Secret of Mana, then come and let's play Seiken Densetsu 3! In Japan, it was called Secret of Mana was Seiken Densetsu 2. Yeah, we got Secret of Evermore instead, which was a great game, don't get me wrong, but let's be honest, it's no Seiken Densetsu 3. So let's get started here and see our party members. The cool thing about Seiken Densetsu 3 is its incredible replay value, which is why I did 8 test runs for this LP. You have 6 characters to choose from, of which you can use 3 of them to form your party, just like Secret of Mana, except you get more choices, more options. Each of them have distinct classes that only they can access, so each character and party you create is different, but each of the characters is still very useful too, so it's really well balanced. As I was saying in the trailer, there's 3 different storylines to the game. Although there is a lot of overlapping content, it's not 3 completely different games, but you'll get a lot of unique dialogue, some unique dungeons, and certainly unique final bosses. And the way it works is whoever your leader is will determine the path you take. So just to go over the 6 characters, we got the one I'm highlighting now, Duran. This guy's Kevin. He is Hawk, or Hawkeye. Angela. Carly, short for Charlotte. And Lise, also known as Reese. Reese Witherspoon? No, we're going to call her Lise for this game. But anyway, for the different storylines, Duran and Angela share the same path. Carly and Kevin share the same path, and Hawk and Lise share the same path. So if you chose, like, let's say one Hawk or Lise as your main character, they would both have the same antagonist there. Your support characters don't influence the direction of the plot, though if you're going to use Carly, you should make her your 3rd character, and you'll see why later on. But anyway, let's talk about party formations. I wanted to make a tutorial for this because as great as this game is, it's not exactly newbie friendly, especially since, in my country we don't have an instruction manual to go with it. Once you make your choices in the game, you cannot take them back. The game does give you a way to work around having an imbalanced party, but it's just easiest to plan ahead. So, once you get past that, it's a great game. So, the battle mechanics are some of the most balanced I have ever seen in an RPG. Most of my information comes from the Team Formation Guide on GameFAQs that I've listed in the video description there. I highly recommend reading it because it'll go into things in a lot more detail than I can in 15 minutes. Now, one of the interesting things about Seiken Densetsu 3 is that you want to form your party based on synergy more than creating a party that can do everything. Like most RPGs, you want to have, your tank, someone who can DPS like a monk or a thief. You want to have your healer and your mage, right? You want to have a well-balanced, all-around party. But in this game, you actually really want to have a main character who determines what the focus of your party is, whether it be melee-focused or magic-focused. And then you want to support that character with others who can enhance their abilities with buffs and debuffs. So, essentially, there's 3 focus characters and 3 support characters, really. Duran is a focus character, and he's kind of like the boy in Secret Armana. He's almost pure melee, no matter what job class he goes into, and he can get some support spells, like some healing, and possibly some elemental sabers, but it depends on how you develop him. You can't get everything for him. Kevin is the ultimate focus character. He is pure melee. He can learn a healing spell and maybe a couple sabers, depending on how you develop him, but for the most part, he's going to be a pure fighting machine. You're not going to take him for his spells, except maybe Leaf Saber, but that's about it. Or is it called Tree Saber? I think it's called Leaf Saber. Well, whatever it is. And then Angela, the last focus character, she's like the girl in Secret Armana, except in this game, she's actually your pure attack mage instead. So yeah, she's really the only magic-focused character. Carly is like the sprite in Secret Armana, except in this game, she's the healer of the game. And she's a great support character for new players, because with the healing spells, you get them early, and it makes life a lot easier. Depending on how you develop her, she could also learn some elemental sabers like Duran, or she can get some debuffs, but, she's basically your pure healer. That's why you're taking her. Now, although Lise is technically a support character, she's actually pretty good all around, and she's good on melee combat too. She can learn all the basic buffs or debuffs, depending on how you develop her. She can't get both, just one or the other. And generally, if you're going to use her though, you're going to use her for the buffs. Really. She can learn some summons that deal mass damage and apply a debuff, but really, she's your buffing character, and she's really good for that. Hawk is easily my favorite character in the game. He's just so versatile, depending on how you develop him. He can go pure melee with debuffs, or pure magical with debuffs, or he can learn some crowd control spells. He can pretty much fit into any party, And plus, he's great for opening chests because of his high agility and luck stats. But I'll go into that later. So, let's say you want to make a melee-focused party. Now, choose your main character, let's say Duran. You want to make a melee focus, okay? And then you want to choose someone who can buff him up for more physical damage. So, you could either go with his sabers, or maybe develop him to not have sabers and use Carly for sabers, or you could use Lise for directly buffing up your physical attack, like a power-up or something. Then you could go with someone who can debuff the enemy's physical defense. So you could take Hawk, for example. Or let's say you want a more magically inclined party. You could choose Angela, because she's pretty much your only focus character for that. And then Lise is really the only character who can buff your magic stats. And then you could either take Hawk or Carly, who can debuff magic defense. And those are just some examples. The Team Formation Guide on GameFAQs has its own suggested parties. So basically, don't repeat the same support skills like sabers or Hawk and Lise for debuffs, and you'll pretty much be fine with whatever party you make. Now, I was talking about stats before, and it's generally not worth forming a party based on them, but I'll just briefly go over them. Strength determines your melee damage, so that's pretty much the quintessential stat for like Duran and Kevin there. So simple enough. Agility, or dexterity, which is like for Hawk, that affects the speed of the Wheel of Fortune. When you open some chests, you get a Wheel of Fortune and you randomly get something out of it. But if it's slower, obviously you can influence it more. And it also affects agility, also affects your hit rate and evade, and affects the damage of some of Hawk's spells, but you'll never care about that. It does allow Hawk to learn some spells, though, depending on his class. So, we'll go over that when we get to that. The Vitality, or Constitution, depending on where you look it up, they got different names for different status or different stats. Vitality determines your physical defense, and I think it slightly affects your HP growth, but you're really taking it for the physical defense. Due to the way armor multipliers work, though, your physical defense is not proportional to your vitality. So, like, Kevin gets the most vitality, but like, let's say he has 12 vitality, he could have the same physical defense as Angela with 8 vitality, because her armor has a greater multiplier. Now, intelligence is the stat that affects the damage of most of your attack spells that aren't holy elemental. So that's the stat for Angela there. It also slightly affects your MP growth. It influences your magic defense against intelligence-based spells, and it also influences what spells you can learn too. Sometimes you need a certain level of intelligence in order to learn a spell. Spirit, or piety, affects the power of your healing and holy elemental attack spells. And there's actually a hidden spirit magic defense stat that's calculated separately from your intelligence magic defense, depending on what spell is cast on you. When you look it up in your stats in the game, when it says magic defense, that's intelligence magic defense, not spirit. Spirit also affects your MP growth. It determines some spells that you can learn, and I think it affects the casting time of your spells. So Carlio casts spells really fast. Unlike Secret of Mana, spells are not instant cast, so you can't chain cast like you did in the last game. So yeah, they took that out. I mean, there's still a way you can get around that too, but I'm not going to break the game like that. Now, luck is a weird stat. Hawk gets a lot of luck, and it affects the number of traps on the Wheel of Fortune. It also affects the rare item drop rate, and how often you can survive an instant death attack with 1 HP, kind of like the reprieve ability in Final Fantasy XIII. Luck is also supposed to affect your critical hit rate, but due to a bug, you'll almost never see critical hits. So, and actually, that's totally fine. It's not like it totally breaks the game or anything like that. Now back to party formations. Most of what I told you really only applies if you're banning the Bazaal Black Market. If you're already in the middle of a game and you don't want to start over, then go to the Bazaal Black Market, and they sell items there that can make up for your party's deficiencies. So basically items that cast spells that your party cannot. So it basically prevents you from getting really stuck in the game if you chose a bad party. It really breaks the game, though, so I'm not going to do that, except in one specific instance. But for the most part, no Bazaal Black Market. That's banned. The other reason I'm banning it is to make each playthrough my brother and I will do more unique. Each playthrough will follow a different storyline and have a different strategic focus. So one of them is going to be melee focused, one of them is going to be magic focused, and the other will be a bit of a combination of the two with some really unique spells and strategies. So that way, when we're going through the content that's exactly the same from one path to another, we'll be using a different strategy to mix it up and keep it interesting. So we're also going to take a couple months off between each LP so we don't get burned out, and you don't either, viewers. So that's all for this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. We'll probably be starting this LP sometime later this month. This is HC Bailey, signing off. Have a good day.